Today, we're going to be talking about how to create and effectively use B2B audiences for PPC. Now, the first question is, why should we spend time on audiences in the B2B space? Well, a big reason for that is transactions typically don't happen online. In the B2B space, you're talking about purchases that can be tens of thousands to millions of dollars. And so those types of transactions tend to happen with a personal touch, right? Sometimes over the phone, most of the time in person, but someone's not going to do that transaction online. Because that's the case, the best strategy in the B2B space is to offer valuable information, right? We want to connect with our audience by establishing connections online using content that will be valuable to them. So stuff like white papers, case studies, ebooks, etc. These types of content are really good for establishing that initial connection, establishing trust and credibility with your audience so that when the time comes, they will contact you about your solutions. I really like this quote from Melissa Mackey from BeyondThePage.com talking about content marketing. She says, audience research in content marketing is as important as keyword research in search PPC. So if you think about it, you wouldn't run a search campaign without carefully picking your keywords because you wouldn't want to show ads to people that are searching for queries that weren't relevant to what you were offering. Well, it's kind of the same thing in content marketing. If you're offering content, you want to make sure that the audience that sees your content that you offer it to is relevant and that they would actually be interested in what you're offering. Some other reasons to spend time on audiences at the beginning as a foundation. Your audience is targeted and small. In the B2C space, there can be, millions of people searching for consumer items like shoes or things like that. But in the B2B space, it tends to be a lot more targeted. Only certain people at certain companies with certain characteristics. In the B2B markets, they tend to demand higher CPCs. So if you're spending $20 to $30 per click or more, you want to make sure that you're not paying for that for someone to come to your site or to your content that isn't, going to be highly interested in what you're offering. You won't know ROI for a while. The typical sales cycle can be 3 to 6 months or longer. So when that's the case, you're really not going to know your ROI on the advertising you're doing today for months. So you want to be really confident that the money you're spending is going towards the audience that you intended to go towards. It's really easy to send the wrong message to the wrong people. The internet's a big place, lots of impressions, and PPC platforms make it really easy to cast a wide net and to reach a lot of people. Buying can involve multiple departments. Google did some research that showed that C-level executives were more and more, as time goes on, they're trusting lower level employees to kind of do the research, involve multiple departments, and come to them with recommendations for solutions to implement. And so while the C-level executive may have, final approval still, a lot of that responsibility in making recommendations is falling on lower level employees. And it's easy to cast too wide a net, like I mentioned. Here's an example of that, where a B2B company might be offering products for large buildings that save on energy costs. The typical B2B advertiser might approach this by choosing the keyword energy savings. And the reason that's a mistake is because if you look on the right there, here are some possible queries that would match to this keyword. And you can see these phrases are really just superficially related to the offering. They don't actually indicate any relevant search intent to what is being offered. It doesn't mean there aren't people searching for these things that could be a part of your audience, but you just don't know. And so you end up casting too wide of a net and targeting too big of an audience. And so you're going to spend this time, laying this foundation of your audiences so that you can know your audience from the crowd. That's going to make your advertising the most effective. So the first thing you're going to do in your research is decide on your firmographics. In the B2C world, demographics hold the weight. Things like age, gender, marital status, things like that. But in the B2B space, firmographics are king. What industry is the business in that I want to target? Where are they located? How big are they? What are the job titles that I want to target in terms of the people that are making the decisions and doing the research? And then company names, if you are targeting businesses that have multiple locations or franchises and, they've got multiple people that you want to target in the same company, then that could be an important factor as well. But you don't want to just stop at firmographics because after all, you're dealing with real people. You want to sketch out your buyer personas. And these real people, they're making decisions to purchase from you or not. They have emotions just like everybody else. And, they're responsible for these decisions. And so, you want to map out your buyer personas and really dig deep into who these people are, what makes them tick. You can see I've got some characteristics here. Things like problems they want to solve and goals and challenges and even common objections that they might have to your solution so that you can address those in your advertising and your content as well. But you don't want to stop there. You want to go beyond the basics of sort of those goals and challenges and the information they might need. Online, there's a lot of different ways to target people. Where do they buy other stuff? What Facebook pages do they like? Industry events they might attend or groups they're a part of. Stuff like this makes for really good fodder for really honing in on the audience you're trying to target. You can see here I've taken my buyer persona and I filled it out here for my energy savings company. I've got Joe Engineer. He's the director of engineering at a luxury hotel. And so you can see I've created sort of this really niche segment of my audience that's going to allow me to target that segment in a targeted way, in a niche way. You can see, I've outlined the characteristics here, and it's allowed me to create like a summary story in the middle that really outlines, what this person is like, what makes them tick, etc. Makes it really easy to then come up with stuff like ad copy and the content that is really going to resonate with this audience so that I can match those up. And when I show that ad to that person, it's really going to resonate with them. So when you go about this process, some of the things, you want to consider when gathering your information are, number one, ask the customers, right? To get this sort of information, who better to go to than the voice of the customer? They're the person buying from you. So if you have that information, that's going to be your most valuable information. You're also going to want to ask those who talk to the customers, right? Sort of the next line of defense, if you will. The client or sales team deals with them all the time, knows the important things that cause customers to become customers, as well as the things that, cause them to get rejected in the past and how you might work around that. Then you might use what you already have, right? Your top accounts. What are the characteristics of your best customers? What makes them tick? That really help to decide on your firmographics and buyer personas. And then listen to online conversation, right? People share online, social media, forums, reviews, things like that. Look for the common questions and concerns so that you can address them in your messaging and your content. Once we've done this, once we've laid out, we're going to apply what we know. We're going to layer our audience characteristics because we want to get granular. Now, we don't want to get too specific. We don't want to have like 10 people in our audience, right? Because that's not going to make any sense. But we also don't want to have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. We want to get a targeted audience so that we can make sure our messaging, our content really match up with who we're serving that to, so our advertising is the most effective. So you can see here, combining your firmographics and your buyer personas is going to give you an informed strategy. You're not just going to be going to these platforms and saying, this is what we offer, and so, hey, buy from us and download our white paper. You're really going to know who you're targeting, where you should target them, so the platforms that your audience hangs out the messaging that you're going to say to them that's really going to resonate with their characteristics, and then the offer that's going to get them into your buying funnel. So that should really help lay a good solid foundation. This audience research is really the first step you want to take to laying a good solid foundation in doing B2B PPC advertising. For more good content, please subscribe to our channel. And as always, if you need any help managing campaigns, feel free to reach out to us.